Hi everyone, this is the fourth video about the physics principles which are used to build a musical tube balloon. Okay, we're continuing with this idea about how frequency relates to the length of a particular air column, except today we're going to be looking at open columns and how that relates. Now again, this is our first model that we're going to deal with, so it's got its own limitations, and then we'll extend these to other models, the two other models that we will encounter. We will also derive the equation for the frequency found in an open pipe with respect to the particular harmonic it experiences. There's a difference in open pipes compared to that of closed pipes, and what happens is you can see that we have a high pressure region that ends up forming or constructively interfering in the center of the pipe, and then you have your low pressure regions right at the boundary of the end of the pipes where destructive interference happens there. And what happens is we can actually model that. That's the inverse. Sorry. So we have destructive interference right in the center, and constructive interference right in the in the periphery of the pipes. Now we can actually model that as transverse waves or sine waves, and we can see, yes, we have a node right in the center, and we have antinodes in the open ends of the pipe. Now the interesting thing here, unlike the closed pipe, we're not limited to a quarter of a wavelength. We actually got a half a wavelength that forms. So we can model that in this diagram here. So you can see one entire wavelength would occupy this entire span. But oddly enough, we don't do one entire phase of the sine wave. We actually we start from the middle of it and go through. So that's why it can be a bit confusing. But when you add them in total up, you can see that it is half a wavelength that is found in these pipes. Okay, now this is our most basic wave that can form in an open pipe. It's known as our first frequency, or a fundamental frequency, which is equal to just half a wavelength that's created. So here instantly we start seeing a relationship. We see that the length of a pipe is given by the particular wavelength that's created at some particular frequency, and it happens to be equal to half of that wavelength. That's the minimum, or the smallest wavelength that can be created in these open pipes. Now this one's a bit different to, well, a lot different to closed pipes. You can see that the harmonics increase by antinodes or half wavelengths, right? So they span either, they increase by a half a wavelength added or an antinode. Now this is useful because this allows for us to have sequential numbers of harmonics, right? So we have our first fundamental harmonic where we have one half a wavelength or one antinode. We have our second harmonic where we have one complete half wavelength there, or an antinode, and then your second one, which is comprised of about two halves that occur in the end. Then we can have our third harmonic. We got 1, 2 antinodes, and we've got the 3, which is composed of those two ends that would add to make one entire antinode. Now again, we can see a general condition that arises. That 2 at the bottom becomes a constant that deals with the size of the wavelength present, and at the top, that end value becomes the particular harmonic. Now, unlike a closed pipe, these are all the natural numbers that span from 1 all the way to infinity. Well, theoretically, other harmonics that can be present in open end pipes. So let's have a look at, we'll use this relationship, this condition that we found, where the wavelength present of a particular harmonic is proportional to the length of the tube, and we'll use that to derive an expression for the frequency found in a tube, in an open pipe, and how it relates to the length of the pipe. So let's do that now. So we'll have our first equation, which deals with the relationship between the wavelength and the pipe length. Wavelength is equal to length, so and we'll number that as equation 1. Now equation 2 is going to do with our frequency. So the frequency of a pipe is equal, or the frequency of some particular wavelength is equal to its speed through the sound, through our atmosphere as a medium, divided by its wavelength. Now again, we will rearrange this and substitute this into equation 2, call this equation 2. So we find that the wavelength is equal to 2 times the length of the pipe divided by the particular harmonic number. So we're going to substitute this expression for wavelength. So we find that frequency is equal to speed of sound divided by twice the length of the pipe divided by the harmonic. We find out that this is equal to the value of the particular harmonic multiplied by the speed of sound. Now when it's the fundamental harmonic, that's a 1, so that becomes negligible, and we get that portion. So now we've got the expression for the frequency experienced by a particular open pipe with respect to its length.